Hi guys, welcome to Bombshells and Blueshells, the podcast spin-off of the website bombshellsandblueshells.com. I'm Alex.
And I'm Alex.
And today we are going to be continuing with our Grimmfest review. So we've done Thursday and Friday, and we're going to start off with our Saturday at Grimmfest. So
Saturday is a long day. I mean, it's a bit of a stretch. You were in college the day of Saturday?
The day of
Saturday.
Yeah, I was in work for the morning, so we missed the first two films, which were Tone Deaf and Why Don't You Just Die? And I don't know much about Tone Deaf, but I mean, I'm very sad that I didn't get to see Why Don't You Just Die? As the Russian film that a lot of people were talking about. So hoping to find that kind of online or something sometime soon. Hopefully there'll be a VOD or something. It was directed by Kirill Sokolov. And it's just been really, really heavily praised for its kind of special effects and its cinematography and just the overall look of it and things. So I think it's one we should definitely try and catch.
Yep.
Yeah. We also missed Asparagus Tips, which was a short that a few people were saying was really funny as well. So that was directed by Sam Bailey.
I forgot all about that.
Asparagus Tips.
I just really wanted to see that one.
So we started off this Saturday with the shorts programme around 2:30. There was 8 in total. We did miss one, unfortunately. Stop, which was a US one, kind of social commentary. 2 black men are pulled over by a ego-tripping police officer, and we can see where that one's probably leading to. We had Changeling, which was UK. Glowing was Dutch. Feed Me Death, which was a US. Bedtime Stories was Spanish. Third Hand was UK. Turn was Finnish.
Icelandic.
And Finnish. And Limbo was another Spanish. All the shorts were quite interesting, but there was some definite standouts. I think there was maybe 3 or 4 that really stood out. First one being the Third Hand, which was the UK one. And this was about an office worker who kind of discovers a photocopy machine that can photocopy anything. It was very much 90s stylized.
It was difficult to pinpoint the exact kind of era this was set in. I think, yes, the machine was the 90s. Vending machine was probably late 80s. The individual that was involved in it was probably early thousands. It was. I think it was purposeful to say this was a relatively timeless short.
Yeah, they used different kind of aspects from different eras and things like that, but kind of. Yeah. There was a little Q&A with the director, and I think a few of the films that were mentioned were like Fight Club and Being John Malkovich, and you can kind of see where that insane office, kind of environment comes from there, and the way they were dressed and things.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting film. Certainly carried a bit of a punch from a gore aspect. I'm not necessarily sure. A
surprising punch, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily sure that it kind of flowed with the overall story arc, but for me, it was one of the better of the 8 films that were on there tonight.
Definitely. I really, really enjoyed Bedtime Story as well. That was the Spanish one. That was kind of a ghost story that starts off a single mother and her 2 sons. The older brother is, as many older brothers are wont to do, scaring the shit out of his younger brother with a story about the witch that lives in the apartment block opposite them and is always in her window staring at them. And this, I thought, was, especially in comparison to something like The Third Hand and things, which was a lot more sci-fi, 90s New Hollywood. This was kind of old school Gothic almost. Still a modern setting, but...
Oh, I'd go with that. Kind of that Del Toro Gothic era.
I didn't want to say Del Toro just because it was Spanish. I'm like, does anyone else do this that's not Spanish? But it was Del Toro fairy tale, wasn't it?
But it was, or Isa Lopez, you
Yes.
could turn around and say tigers are not afraid kind of aspect of it. It's got a bit of a Gothic era, a Gothic feel to it.
Yes.
Mary Shelley.
Yeah.
That kind of storyline where it is more of a ghost story, a traditional ghost story than any of the other films that we've watched this entire weekend.
And I did enjoy it. Had it did bring some jumps. There seems to be a running theme in a few of the films we've watched recently with naked old ladies.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've not seen naked old ladies.
I mean, did you sleep through it, chapter 2?
Some sexy boobs.
All about them naked old ladies. Well, I thought that one was a really well put together, really nicely done short. The next one that really kind of caught my eye was Tan, and that was the Icelandic? The wrong way around again.
Finish.
Icelandic finish. I can say either, so I'm correct either way.
A group of friends. Excuse me. Oh, dearie me. A group of friends head up to an Icelandic cabin, and from there it takes a significant sci-fi / time loop.
Yeah, this was another one that kind of lent into the sci-fi, didn't it?
I wasn't entirely convinced I knew what was going on at any point to it. For me, it was sci-fi. I think a few other people that we've spoken to that weekend said it was a time loop experience. I can only comment from my perspective. It was interesting to see. It was very visually pleasing.
Yeah.
I think maybe just because the landscape, the almost 30 days a night aspects of it, where it's got a never-ending twilight feel to the entire film, makes it quite appealing.
Completely
or even,
isolated cabin.
It makes it quite exotic.
Yeah.
We don't get a never-ending twilight in England, and that's just the thing. But I think, for me, the entire arc of the individuals that are involved in the film and the way that they are then portrayed and developed to make you believe that they may or may not be those individuals throughout the rest of the film is very, very interesting.
Kind of a, like you say, timey-wimey doppelganger loopy thing, which...
timey-wimey spacey-wacy thing.
Timey-wimey spacey-wacy thing. Which lent itself really well to... Again, the isolated cabin in the woods has been done so many times that if you're not going to bring something new to it, then don't touch it. Do you know what I mean? So I think 10 did bring something new to the board, and this was another F-rated short, so it was a lady strong short.
It certainly was, and the last film that I think we're going to talk about is a film called Limbo, which Alice is going to take you through right now.
Yeah, this one confused both of us.
I was heavily confused, which is why I'm not involved in this bit.
You still need to be involved. So this is a Spanish film, and it kind of... Limbo as a title makes more sense the more I think about it and things like that. Like this kind of idea of a state where you're perpetually stuck and things, stuck in maybe one of your worst moments. And this one has a bit of a loop to it as well. There's a loopy theme, or a regenerative theme and things in a lot of these. It's kind of... I wouldn't even want to go into what the story actually is, because I think that is almost for you to kind of watch yourself, for you to see and to get what you figure yourself out of it. But the rapid fire kind of editing, the use of really kind of loud and intrusive sounds and things like that just kept screeching at you. Every time you were lulled into calm, it screeched and things. So the sound design and the editing were just really good on this. Story-wise, not a pissing clue. Would have to watch it again and kind of, take it in a little bit more. It was only 15 minutes, but somehow it still mashed my brain. But I just thought visually it was one of the most intriguing. Again, dealing with a big chunk of violence, but in a very different, less stylized way than something like The Third Hand. And you're still just looking at me like you've watched this film for the first time as I've described it to you.
I have honestly no recollection of that film whatsoever.
But that was the shorts programme that introed us back into our first weekend day of Grimmfest. After the shorts programme, we moved into our first feature of the day, which was a 4:30 showing of Artik. This was its UK premiere. It's an American film. It's directed by Tom Botchell, or Butchai. Tom Butchai.
Tom Bocci. Tom Bocci.
I'm going to go Bocci.
Bocci!
So it's directed by Tom Bocci. So this was his first feature film. And we were really, really excited by the kind of concept of this one. This was sold to us as a comic book obsessed serial killer. Tequila boy. A comic book obsessed serial killer teaches his son how to get away with murder until this boy kind of befriends a mysterious man who finds out, kind of takes the young boy known as Boy Adam under his wing. I was very, very excited going into this one.
I mean, I was excited as well.
You read the description and I was super excited. The way you described
it then, it doesn't sound 100% accurate
like the actual film.
Watched.
No, it's not. I think that was the problem, wasn't it? It started off and the director was there and he was really lovely and super excitable when he introduced the film.
There was so many Easter eggs apparently.
Yeah, we had to keep our eyes out for all the comic book Easter eggs, and I was ready to get my nerdy horror on. I was ready to spot them all. I was like, I probably won't get them all. I'm not that great, but there's got to be a few that I pick up on. And then there was a Loki head on a dartboard. That's about all I got. So unless these were some
Easter egg, I mean that was just like
a Loki head on a dartboard.
There was a Loki head on a dartboard. But it wasn't like the guy was wearing Loki head or
his
horns.
I don't know.
It just didn't make any sense.
But maybe there's some that we just didn't get. Or
I really don't feel like there was, and that isn't. It's not an observation as to the overall film, because I don't think it was the worst film I've ever seen this year.
100% not at all. It wasn't even a bad film.
No, but there was certain aspects of it that I thought didn't need to be hyped up, and I thought were hyped up for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, that's the problem. You told me serial killer obsessed with comic books, and I expected something between kind of, I don't know, Dexter, The Boys, and Brightburn.
It was like Maniac crossed with Brightburn, someone unhinged,
but with an obsession that leads them to do certain types of things. So,
and to me, there was none of that.
Well, like I said, so the main guy, Artik, that should have been a lot more apparent. So the dad,
I can see why it wasn't.
The dad, Artik. He's got lots of comic books and all that kind of stuff. He talks to his son about the righteous hero and finding. He again, I don't even really get necessarily what it's doing. It's as if he's trying to find the most righteous man who will take on this superhero mantle. But to find the righteous man, he's just gonna possibly kill a few of them because they don't last long enough. The righteous man must withstand torture.
I don't understand his motivation throughout this entire film.
That's the problem. It's a well thought out idea in parts, and then in other parts it's just like, oh, but that looks cool. Oh, but just do that. it felt a little bit like there wasn't a completed character in Artik, who is, obviously he's not our main, so Halton is, he works at like a chop shop or something like that, near where Boy Adam lives, and Boy Adam comes across him and things, but he's had a terrible...
He works at a chop shop, and
Yes.
Boy Adam
He's graffitiing.
graffitiing the wall.
Yeah.
And that's how they meet. And it's a very by chance arrangement.
But
that they
Halton,
meet.
with his kind of past that we find out about, he's going to these groups and things, so he was obviously had a bad childhood and things like that. He sees something in Boy Adam. He kind of sees the look that Boy Adam has as something that he remembers from his childhood. So we get a very quick bond between the two. He becomes quite protective.
It very much states that he has potential to be a contributing human being as opposed to somebody that's...
Yeah, like his circumstances... Halton has proven his circumstances don't define him, and he wants to help Boy Adam do this.
Yeah.
And we get this kind of this horrible family setup with brutal dad and kind of slave driving, very uncaring mum. She doesn't really give the kids... They don't really have names, and they mostly just do chores, and they live in a barn.
They're locked in a barn.
They're locked in a barn.
They mostly live in a barn. They are locked in a barn. They don't have any names. No, they are just boy and girl. I mean, I feel like you're underestimating the scope of the neglect.
I thought she was my hero.
I don't know how your childhood was, but...
I mostly lived in a barn.
And I had only one letter for a name. These fuckers have got 5 letters.
But yeah, so they sell us this really awful household, this kind of, very... I don't even know, like, it doesn't even feel like they're parents. They have children. There are children there. There's a big difference in there between being a parent and owning a child. Because they keep saying that as well. That's a weird thing. Where's your owner? They Halton refers to Boy Adam's parents as, like, his owner.
I feel like it was based on a universe... And I say universe,
but yeah, like there was something else.
Very, very broadly, because everybody's talking about fucking universe.
We can't have this in every episode.
But I feel like it is based on someone else's story or a larger world that is like a dystopian future whereby people are honestly going... I own this child, or...
Yeah.
Because it really did not, to me, feel like an accurate representation of how anybody would treat another individual. It's
like being dropped into...
Is that on purpose? Am I missing something there?
I don't know. That's what I was thinking, like, when you watch films like The Road, and they call him Boy, it's this kind of post-apocalyptic world that is so clearly kind of signposted for you, and you get a little bit of backstory, and you know what the threat is and things. You get a bit of like the backstory of what the world actually is, and maybe kind of it's clearly shown that something has changed as far as social dynamics, whereas in this it just looks like a heavy stylized modern world, but with a big dude who likes to kill people, calling your parents owners, kids that live in barns, and no one really seems to give a shit. I felt like it was juggling too much. I felt like I'd missed the prequel.
I just didn't get it. I mean, now I think about it outside of the context of watching this and then giving it a rating during the film. During the film. During the watching of the film, I find it difficult to understand what the motivation for any of the characters were.
No, and that was confusing, and I think, again, there's nothing to say that this is even a bad film. Do you know what I mean? It's not a bad film. It's confused. it has a weird story. It's still very visually beautiful. There's still a lot there that could be worked upon, I think. It's not going to hit, like the worst list of the year because, goddamn, there's been some stinkers this year. But it just didn't seem to know, or I didn't seem to know. Like, if anyone would like to explain to me, and I'm sure there are people out there that could, and please do explain what was actually going on. But I think without deep diving into it, as a general audience member going into this film for the first time, I just don't think it fully made sense or realised its own ideas.
I'm honestly struggling to really fight in the corner for this film. It didn't explain why it's set out to be in the dystopian future.
There was nothing that told us necessarily it was dystopian because it was set somewhere so rural.
The language was extremely dystopian.
Yeah, but that was also just extremely stylized from the eyes of a serial killer. Do you know what I mean? This strange Texas Chainsaw Family kind of thing. I know we tell films off for being too on the nose, but I don't know, a bit of nose wouldn't have hurt this.
Yeah, I didn't get it. But
no.
Yeah, I sat down after this, watching this film with people in the bar, had a conversation with them, and defended it. And now that I talk about it out loud, about what actually happened in this film, I have absolutely no idea why I was defending it at the time, because it seems extremely difficult to do so.
I guess, like I say, it's maybe trying to do this dystopian kind of future, this maybe sort of archetypal good versus evil, the purest of pure as far as Holton and the worst of the worst as far as Artik, but I think it had a little bit too little explaining that, or too little giving that story over to us.
There was no suggestion. There was no inferring of these things. It was very literal. And I think that went a long way to go, okay.
Went a long way to go right over my head, so...
I'm bored now.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I was going to say, it didn't necessarily bore me because there was enough visually going on that kept it interesting, and it looked very pretty and it was very well shot. But every now and then I'd then go, that was a really cool scene. What's going on now? What does it mean? So it lost me a little bit, which is why it got my lowest rating, a 3.
What did I give it?
You also gave it a 3.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
So,
I was worried I gave it a 4.
No, it doesn't
I
go...
was seriously worried I gave it a 4.
It doesn't go under a 3, because it still was a very kind of visually interesting film. I think almost its own selling points are what put me off, because you tell me serial killer horror with a comic book edge, and I am going to expect... It's the same thing that happened with Brightburn and things. You tell me horror origins of dickhead Superman, and I'm going to expect more than you're probably going to give to me, unfortunately. But if you are interested... I've got nothing but there. But if you're interested in checking this out for yourself, it has been released on DVD and VOD already, but not in the UK as far as I could tell. So it came up on Amazon, but as unavailable to me, so I don't know if that's a UK based thing, but if I do find it, I will put it in the show description and things, so you can maybe watch it and tell me what the hell happened. We followed that on with our second feature of the night, the 7 o'clock screening of Extraordinary, and this was the English premiere. It's an Irish film, so obviously I think it had premiered in Ireland, so this was its English premiere instead. This is directed by Micah Hearn and Enda Lohman, and they've worked together on 2 other shorts and things like that, so they're a bit of a duo. They work together on The Hatch and Mr. Foley, which sounds really good. It's about Foley sound design and things like that, so we need to check that one out.
Oh, 100%.
Not about Mick Foley.
Yeah, that's a shame.
This film is about Rose, a driving instructor whose real talents lie in her supernatural ability to speak to the dead. She has what her father penned as a talent. She gave up the talent after a traumatic experience, and now she just wants to live her life happily, find her a nice man. She finds one. Unfortunately, he's being haunted by his dead wife, and his daughter is about to be sacrificed to a satanic cult. That's kind of the basics of Extraordinary. Everything around that story is just the pure magic.
Yeah, Extraordinary was totally a standout film for the weekend. It had the perfect mix of relaxed humour and absolutely hilarious moments. At point, knew when to take the mick out of itself.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely, ideally, and altogether never took itself too seriously.
No, could not be accused of that. Yeah, I think this was when we mentioned earlier. Would it have been in the last episode possibly? With like a serial killer's guide to life and things, and those little segments in the middle. They had that in this with Rose's dad, who was like a paranormal expert and things, and they kept showing clips from his show and things like that, talking about these different talents, and I just thought it was so funny. It kind of knew exactly what it needed to be. This is one of the films that weekend that had its tone and it had it nailed down.
Yeah, a very strong, very strong feel of Garth Marenghi's Dark Place.
Very
strong
dark
feel
place.
of Toast of London. That kind of dry, very off the cuff kind of humour. It crowd. It was kind of Chris. What's his name from Brass Eye?
Chris Morris.
Yeah, Chris Morris. Kind of dry humour while still making a little bit of a point. No political undertones here. Just a lot of dry humour.
Yeah, a lot of really like the director kind of introduced it and things like that, and was saying, "I hope you get the Irish humour," and I think the entire audience got the Irish humour. Like, it's that idea of what if you combined Derry Girls with Ghostbusters, and it was
that's a really good statement. Who did you steal that from? I mean, I
did that myself.
Bullshit. That is a brilliant statement. That's a good observation.
Aww, you're cute.
Fucking robbed it.
I didn't rob it.
Liar.
Oh god, Google it. But yeah, there was just a brilliant cast behind it. Maeve Higgins, I've not seen her in anything, but she was Rose, and she just played it perfectly, like this leading lady while being the most unconventional leading
I mentioned
lady.
Derry Girls after it, because there's few people from Derry Girls in it.
Oh, there is, yeah.
Yeah? Tell me who they are, because you know so much about Derry Girls.
He's doing a really happy tit dance right now. Don't be mean. This is our podcast. The laughs are for both of us. I'm editing this bit out, you prick.
That's fine.
So Maeve Higgins was Rose. I've not seen her in anything else, I don't think. No. Barry Ward played Martin. I think he has been in a few things, but I didn't really recognise that much. But I think the big name in this, and the kind of surprising for the Irish tone, was Will Forte, the SNL alumni. He played Christian, the one-hit wonder.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah? Everyone's favourite dad.
Recognise the face, yes.
He was the dad in Booksmart. He was the dad in Good Boys.
He was the dad in Good Boys and Booksmart.
He's just everyone's favourite dad. In this, he's a prick, but that's a different matter. But the best kind of prick, yeah.
Who was there's the Australian woman who was in Festival? Is Festival a film?
I'm not sure.
With the guy from In-Betweeners.
Oh, yeah,
Not
yeah,
Will,
yeah.
the other one. That's Simon Bird, isn't it? It's the other one who was in Fresh Meat.
Yeah. I know what you mean now. Festival. It wasn't very good. It had did it have Noel Fielding in it? I feel like it was a Fielding thing.
I think he sold T-shirts, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he sold T-shirts there.
It
was
did very
maybe
well.
a cross-dresser, I think.
It's
or
not
was
a
that
stretch.
another person that I thought
was Noel Fielding.
Looked
like
Noel
Fielding. Anyway, that's not the point of this.
But the Australian...
But she was in that, and I thought she was a very good supporting actress in that as well. Actor, actress.
Who is she in this?
Thing to say nowadays. She is the wife of.
She's his wife, Claudia. Her name is Claudia O'Doherty. I hate that I pronounce Irish names so wrong. But that's the actor's name, and then she plays Claudia Winter in the thing. Okay. So it's a Claudia and a Claudia, like Martin. But yeah, Will Forte is Christian, like the one-hit wonder, washed-up rock star who wants to kind of revitalise his career with even like he's on the phone to his manager or something, that he's like, yes, don't worry, I've got all the things sorted for the ritual, we'll have our next #1 single soon. Like, it's just got to the point where selling your soul to the devil is easier than creating a good song.
Absolutely. He embodies the role so perfectly, Forte. He really does. With his locating stick. His virgin locating stick.
This stick locates virgins.
I mean, you don't really need to say any more than that.
No, not without giving too much away. As I say, it's not so much that you can give things away too badly as far as the narrative of this, I don't think. But
what was the budget of this? Because
I don't know.
It felt extremely low,
and extremely high all at the same
Worked
time.
hard to be extremely low. It must have been a relatively decent budget. 5 million, 10 million.
I don't know. I'll have a little look. I can't imagine it was too low, sort of thing. Like, I feel like it needed enough to get kind of the cast and things.
I mean, you're not looking at One Cut of the Dead, but you are talking about.
They had some sets, they had some sets on this and things. So,
but the ghostly thing, it was literally like Garth Marenghi with the floating spatulas and fire extinguishers and things like that at points. Yes. So it can't be massively high, surely.
I don't think it will have been, but I think it's purposeful as well. Like like you say, the effects they did to do things like having toast popping out with an answer written on it, and like having wires moving for toasters and like things like that was kind of. It was done on purpose. The director, during his Q&A and things, was saying he was inspired by an article he read about OAPs being groped by ghosts in their nursing home. And then these two people come to investigate, but they have just like normal jobs. So it's like one of them's like a waiter and one of them's like a truck driver. But on the weekends, they're paranormal investigators. And it's like, who the fuck are these people? So he wanted to kind of write a story about that. Kind of that idea of, what if we did a full film about those shit hauntings, like the ones you see on YouTube where a glass slid off the bar table when no one was there. It's not like, big scary kind of haunting Amityville and all that lot, like nothing insane. Just what about the really shit ones where like your dead wife's just angry so she keeps knocking a donut out your hand? Like, what about shit hauntings?
Well, have you had a shit haunting?
Have I had a shit haunting?
Yeah, along the lines of extraordinary.
No, I don't think.
Really? Nothing? I had 2.
You had 2 shit hauntings. What are your shit hauntings?
I was hella late to work one day and I got called into my boss's office and he stopped the bollocking halfway through because his calendar moved back and forth behind him. Oh. Yeah.
So this was a nice office buddy that was like, stop telling off my friend, I like him.
Yeah.
Okay. Helpful ghosts.
The other one was at a friend's house.
Yeah.
And me and 2 mates were like walking around the house and up the stairs, and then the mate at the front stopped because there was something in front of him.
Oh.
So the 2 of us weren't really paying attention, walked into the back of each
other.
So
it was like a Three Stooges thing. It was more of a haunting in the end.
Yeah. I never actually saw what stopped him, but it's fine.
See, that sounds more intense. Like the shit haunting is like definitely just fucking around with the calendar.
Move. I saw that happened.
But that's what's brilliant about it is
there was no windows in the office.
No.
It was an internal office. Okay. No wind changes, no aircon.
Yeah, lift your finger, everything. Check for wind direction. Nothing. Yep. Nothing going on.
I mean, that was my first reaction. What do I do in this scenario right now? Lick my finger.
Lick my finger.
Get a bollock in. And now suddenly there's a ghost in the room. Lick my finger, quick. Wow.
So, I do think there was definitely just such a good atmosphere for this film. Like, the entire audience were laughing. Everyone left really excited. It was such a tight script, so well put together. Again, kind of these characters and things like that who felt like real people, felt like people you could be invested in, who were going through what would cause a lot of people concern in normal circumstances, but doesn't seem like it could be worthy of a film. But these guys made it 100% worthy of a film, like these crap hauntings that aren't, it's not blood raining down the walls and, the roof folding in on itself and things like that. It's just someone moving your crap about.
It's just that completely inert threat. Wow. Thursday afternoon, guys. That's big words for a Thursday afternoon. Completely inert threat that just absolutely carried this film.
Yeah.
Absolutely carried it all the way through. The overall implication, the overall threat in the film was that
I think
one person might die.
Yeah.
Was that it?
The overall threat of what could happen, the possible outcome, did only come down to one person, but it became so much more than that, because it became kind of a story of Rose re-accepting her gifts and things like that, like re-acknowledging her kind of talent, as her dad would put it, and things. So it really did, I honestly think just Rose as a character, the way she was written, it's that kind of, there was no stereotype to her. It was nice to see someone who was played as more of the funny lead and things like that, instead of having to be a damsel in distress or having to be a badass kind of thing. Like she was amazing in her own right, without having to be, like a ripped Sarah Connor or a kind of Disney princess.
I think she was still pretty nails throughout it. There were moments where she was a damsel. There were moments where she kind of built upon that, even towards the end, where ultimately there was a face-off, boss battle. And she wasn't necessarily the most confident in that.
No.
So it's an interesting dynamic throughout the film, and one that is just standout hilarious. As the entire weekend, this film is absolutely genius.
Oh.
And my favourite scene involves a wheelie bin.
Oh, the wheelie bin scene. It is. I think this is one that will either flop completely anywhere but the UK, or will really just nail it by having that kind of overt, British sensibility that sometimes does work really well overseas and things. But yeah, the jokes are just you left the screening so happy. Like, we went to the usual, the Lion's Den, have a pint, regroup, and everyone was smiling, everyone was beaming.
That one guy, I can't remember his name. He's gone out of my head completely. I could picture him, but he genuinely came out of the showing, said to the person that was collecting the ballots, "You may as well close the box on this, because this film has won." Yeah,
close the audience choice.
Look at the audience. Awards, everybody has chosen this film. Yeah, it is a fact.
It was so beautifully put out there, and this was definitely one that managed to nail that kind of horror comedy, and I'm so glad it was in there, like right in the middle, kind of giving us that
perfect carrying film.
Yeah, giving us that boost again. But
not one that should be ignored.
No,
absolutely. If you can find this film anywhere and you can get it available to you, make sure you get your chops around it.
It's on DVD pre-order at the moment for the 25th of October. Again, as with Tales from the Lodge, I'm not sure if this is just UK, because obviously my Amazon is UK, but that means that it should be available. So I think this is one that 100% I want on my shelf. Like, I want it on my DVD shelf.
This film.
Yeah.
DVD, Blu-ray. I'd say 4K HD, but I have no way of playing it. My eyes are that bad, it makes no difference anyway.
No, I think 4K in glasses just becomes an oxymoron.
Yeah. Pointless.
But yeah, that was definitely such a standout film, and again, for I think this kind of feature debut, I really want to watch these the director's kind of 2 short films and things, but for a feature debut, knocked it right out of the park.
Smashed it. What kind of rating did we give it?
Okay, shockingly, this is a twist of events. It got a 5.
Did I give it a 5?
You also gave it a 5.
I gave it a 5. It was a 5.
It was a worthy 5. There was no wiggle room around that 5. It nailed it.
Smashed the entire weekend.
Yeah.
Brilliant film.
Okay. We followed that on. 9:10 we're at now. Long weekend. Long week. Lots of films. Very enjoyable. But let's open back into our theme. Alex fell asleep.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, I fell asleep.
So 9:10 was the UK premiere of The Shed.
Oh,
you
yeah,
remember
The
about
Shed.
The
Yeah, I
Shed?
remember that, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good film. Had a shed in it.
There was actually a shed. This wasn't like a metaphorical name. There was an actual shed in this film.
I mean, the budget for this must have been like £5.
I don't think the budget's the issue here.
Alright, the story.
Yeah,
Must
I
have
think.
cost them £5.
But so this is Frank Sabatella, who has done a couple of films. He did Blood Night, The Legend of Mary Hatchet. He's done a couple of shorts, Night of the Pumpkin, things like that. So there's been he's done films prior to this, and The Shed is basically kind of a teenage story, a teenage orphan, technically living with his granddad, who is abusive. Yeah, kind of verbally
threatening. Did we ever see any abuse? It was more like
verbal and threatening.
Mentally abusive.
Well, this is
not a physical abuser.
I don't
think he had the
think
capability of being physical abuse.
I know that. To kind of just jump into the thing that annoyed me is he was a stock character. He was Granddad Vietnam. I fought in the military, and you kids today don't know that you were born, and call me sir and respect me, and very much just that guy that you see in, like, do you know what I mean? That kind of tropey character who's not very nice.
Hugely.
To the teenage boy that he's taken in. So this guy, Stan.
Did his dad die or something, or his mum?
Both of his parents died
in a crash.
Yeah, so he was left
again a very tropey.
Yes, the orphan who. Do you know what I mean? It's a Harry Potter under the stairs. It's like, it's every Disney film. You're not allowed to have parents. Is the kind of thing, isn't it?
It's just an easy write-off.
Yeah, it just means you don't have to worry about that because if no one gives a shit about the character, you can get away with more stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Stan and his best friend, Dharma? They pronounce it strange, but I think it's Dharma.
I think it's Dharma, isn't it?
Dharma. We'll go with Dharma. So, yeah, him and his best friend are regularly bullied at school, again by... I could be wrong, I'm not going to say it as fact necessarily, but I just don't feel like the group of bullies that pin you down and beat you up and, do you know what I mean, that, like, knock your books out of your hand... That feels very It Chapter 1, not It Chapter 2, that's still a very 80s bullying trope, whereas I don't think that's how bullying in the modern world works anymore. Like, if your kid comes home and they've been beaten up, it's not just going to be, I'll go talk to their parents. That's not how the world works anymore.
I'm struggling to remember that, probably because I was asleep, but I remember the bully, or what was, in inverted commas, the bully being part of the later
Marvel
development of the film. Is that his name?
Marvel.
So
yeah, I think
Marvel's first name.
It just says Marvel. Marvel's like the leader of that, and he's got his two little cronies. So it very much is
it didn't make sense to me.
No.
His entire, I mean, there was no arc. He was just your stock
bully,
stock, early 90s, late 80s bully. Like, as you say, stealing your lunch money.
Yeah, just that kind of...
It felt to me like that stereotype's kind of done, dusted. Yeah, alright, it exists as a stereotype, but I'm fairly confident it doesn't exist in the world anymore, and that might just be me being blinkered from being older now, but... I'm
now trying to think whether this was set in the 80s. Is that maybe...
I don't think it was clear that it was.
But it wasn't, Nothing made it super clear, so to me, I was just reading it as modern.
Alright, he was in the war, but in the war, Vietnam 80s?
I think that's what, that was...
70s, 80s, is that Vietnam War?
No, I think it was 60s.
Was it 60s? Well, even so, this guy's like 90.
Yeah, so it's still 100%. There's still people who... It's not like World War One. We're not getting to that point where we wouldn't believe you exist. Like, that you're still...
1955 to 1975. Okay, so I'm just trying to think, like, work out the timeline, like that he would be, like, to actually work out whether that would be feasible for it to be in the 80s. Because he was comfortably 80 odd years old.
Yeah, he was a grandfather who's had two kids, whose had a kid, whose kid has had a kid.
So I mean, he couldn't have been in Vietnam in his 50s, could he? And that would equate to him being 50 in 1955.
So I think that's...
So if he was, say, 20 in 1955, assuming that he's at the start of Vietnam, which is where he said he was, then the 80s, it's supposed to be 55, 60 years old. which to me, he was appearing 20 years older than that, easily 20 years older than that.
Yeah, I don't like to say I can't fully remember
my dad's
it.
60 odd, 65, 66, and you know, nowhere near the kind of level of age that this was representing.
Yeah, so that's for me. I put it as being modern times sort of thing.
That's what I mean, and in that regard, you look back at the whole view of the bully, the relationship between the bully and the nerd, if you want to call it that, metalhead,
the weird kid,
weird one.
Yeah,
it just doesn't really correlate.
No,
none of it does.
That was it. Does kind of. That was what confused me. Was it just felt like, let's throw these stock characters into this quite stocky situation, and kind of going through the film without spoiling it. So obviously those two are friends. They like to skip school and go drink beers on this abandoned couch and things like that. And the real thing's hitting when Bane, so I think this is Mr. Bane, but Bane is bitten.
See the cat from the Batman films.
The cat.
Yeah. Bane cat.
Bane cat. Yes, that is him. But basically, kind of, this guy is bitten, like right at the beginning, first 5 minutes, you're shown a proper, again, kind of old school vampire effect. Second time we've had this, like Salem's Lot, Nosferatu style vampire.
Stuff, yeah.
And the guy who's bit, Bane, ends up in Stan's shed at the end of his garden. Can't come out because of the sunlight. So we've got old school traditional cannot be in the sunlight vampire sort of thing. When the boys realise this, it then becomes kind of a moral decision of what do we do with the monster in the shed. And I'm literally looking at the description here, and the last kind of bit is when Stan discovers a murderous creature has taken refuge inside his tool shed, he tries to battle the demon alone until Dahmer comes up with a far more sinister plan. So that's not spoilers that they decide to do something with that. But that takes a long time to happen. There is a lot of lead up before that happens. And then when it finally does happen, it's kind of very anticlimactic.
Quite less.
Yeah, a little bit of a whoopee cushion.
I mean, for me, it was pretty quick because I fell asleep in a bit where nothing happened
and woke up
and something was happening.
Yeah.
So, but that is not the best advert for a film.
No, it was pretty slow.
It was extremely slow.
But also, again, and I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but just this idea of tone. If it wanted to be a deep dive, Donnie Darko, look at this poor teenage angst-ridden soul and kind of
better writer.
this well, just decide what you want. This alienated teenager, but if it wanted to do that, it could have done that. But instead, it also decided to throw in moments that were very campy, moments that kind of led us to think it could be this kind of over-the-top tongue-in-cheek bit. I mean, were you awake for the satanic sluts bit?
No.
I feel like you would have remembered it. Okay, so he had a poster.
I missed a satanic sluts bit. That's ridiculous.
How sad are we now?
I'm devastated. So I have to get it on DVD.
But it's like, there's a moment where a poster comes to life and it's satanic sluts and it's corsets and a cape, and yeah, it might be a teenage boy's fantasy, but in a film like this, it had entirely no place.
Is it questionable that this teenager? All right, yeah, we had the 80s, the 90s, where teenagers were played by 30-year-olds, but they seemed to get away with it because the thing at the time was not muscle mass, so strong people were actually like spindly people.
Yeah.
Whereas now, teenagers have to be played by like 12-year-olds because
we don't believe it otherwise.
Yeah, it's just completely unbelievable. And yet in this, they must have gone with someone that was 20-something to kind of get him to some sort of level, because it wasn't believable for me.
I don't know.
His mannerisms, his attitude, it just didn't seem to me.
So J.J. Warren is his name. And he was Stan. Is it going to give me an age? I do apologise. He was born in 2000. He is 19.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Didn't believe him as a teenager.
But I think, again, like the Donnie Darko thing, he's meant to be this anguished teen. He's meant to be this kind of
broken heart to be fixed and things like that. But then you get scenes where his poster comes to life and he gets to see the corseted lady in a cape being all sexy, and it kind of just made me uncomfy. I was like, it's almost as if you've done the edit already and gone, do you know what we've not included, boys? Tits. And like, but if it was going to be that kind of film, if it wanted to do that all the way through, because like you say, the old school throwback vampires, this kind of 80s bully thing, then do that. Be your own kind of self-aware B-movie from the 80s. Absolutely.
Own it.
Love that stuff. I'm all on board for that. But yeah, this kind of, and again,
Didn't know what it was, did it?
No, and that bit, I'm not saying like, oh, there was female sexuality in it, and you know, it's more just, it felt so unnecessary and so out of the tone of what was going on.
I known it was there.
Oh yeah. Should have nudged you then, should I? I wake him up at all the wrong parts.
You did the right thing, just nudging me when it was finished.
Yeah. So I wasn't sold on it. As I say, we've ripped into this one a little bit more, and I think that's just because it could have
unintentionally, actually.
Yeah.
I didn't set out to have this opinion.
No, and we've just egged each other on to be really wanky about
However,
it.
but it was.
But it wasn't
not
great. No, it kind of just couldn't settle on tones. As I say, as with every film, there was something redeemable. There was something good in layers of it.
I like the shed. The shed was well designed.
Again. Shut up. I thought you meant like the actual concept of that, like the having a monster who's trapped in a shed. Again, good concept. I think it's just getting. This is sometimes where
physically, like the shed was made out of particularly strong wood. It looked like a good shed.
Particularly strong wood. Shut up.
You can't see this, but I just winked.
This is also getting cut. But yeah, there was some potential there in the story, but like we've said about a couple of these, it's knowing the difference. And it's not just horror films that do it. There's a whole heap of like other genre films that do it, where you take a paragraph like concept and say, right, feature film it. And it doesn't have the legs to feature film. It has the legs for a good short film. It has the legs to be part of an anthology. Has the legs to be an episode of a TV series. But it doesn't have the legs to justify even the 86-minute runtime that this was. Not the greatest fan of The Shed, which is what resulted in a 3 score from me. Do you remember?
And also a 3 score.
You did also 3 score it. Again, we're not filmmakers, so I hate the idea. Like, it feels fine to be a bit shitty about big films in the theatre and stuff like that, because it's like, you got the backing.
Don't worry about it. I don't think it's going to get to a cinema in here soon.
Well, it is getting certain cinema releases.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it will be
Extraordinary is not.
No,
Travesty.
that's just...
Travesty.
But, we didn't mention Extraordinary. They did mention maybe a TV series, though, because that's what we're saying. That would be some perfect BBC Three stuff right there.
Unbelievable.
So I'd rather do that, because I'm going to buy it on DVD anyway. But again, back to The Shed, it will be getting a digital release on November 15th. So you can watch it. Let us know if we're entirely wrong and, maybe it was set in the 80s and maybe there is some credence to it. But yeah, just a bit of a whoopee cushion, bit of a wet lettuce, as you said. So that was the end of our Saturday night. We looked at The Wretched, which was a Northern premiere. I feel like we've heard some good stuff about it.
We have, yeah.
Which makes it really disappointing. But as the theme goes, once my lovely Alex has fallen asleep, we don't force you to watch another film, because it would just be pointless.
I'd be snoring throughout it.
Yeah. So we ended up across at the Lion's Den as usual. I think we ended the night on a couple of pints and a chat with a few others who were doing the same as us.
This was the one where we were going to go back in, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then we got chatting to people and
ended up with another pint in our hands.
Let's just have a conversation about the films we watched.
Yeah, I think that's got to be part of it as well, is yes, you're here to see all this new cinema and to watch things that you don't get the opportunity to watch all the time, but at the same time it's exactly what one of the people we were talking to said. This is our time to be the people stood outside of a pub having this type of conversation, and where the majority were no longer the minority in the corner going, did you see the kill scene? Did you love the gore? What about the blood splatter? And there's someone in the other corner already with the police on like speed dial going, Jesus, these people are weird. So it's our time to like fly high that freak flag.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was I think that was one of the most enjoyable parts of the weekend. Certainly was the camaraderie, the friendship that was there. We didn't know, other than Kenneth. I don't think, and I don't know him. You know, you knew him from university, which was a few years ago now.
Yeah,
but,
watch yourself.
The last time you saw him was the year before at
Yes.
Grimmfest. So these are people that either you don't see very regularly or have never met before.
No.
And yet it feels perfectly acceptable to have a conversation about murdering somebody, or not directly, because that's the wrong statement, but in the TV show or the film that you're watching,
do you think
there's
this
blood
person
and
should
gore,
have died?
or, what was going on there in this scenario? It was interesting and a lot more appealing than I think the last film of the day. It's certainly being outside in the fresh air, kept me awake for a little bit longer.
I think that's the thing. There's only so long you can do, and so we'd racked up the short films, and then done 3 feature-length films and things, and you start feeling a little bit cabin fever-esque. So,
well, you can still consider that we had a full week before that of work. We've done 2 nights up until about 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And well, you had. Honestly, about half 9.
You got some power naps in.
Yeah.
And of course, this wasn't the end. There was still Sunday. We still had a day.
Sunday.
And Sunday had some exciting things lined up for us.
So many good intentions. As early as we could. We paid for a taxi.
Yeah.
We never pay for taxis. We paid for a taxi.
I had to get a taxi home because we're going to get up and we're going to really rock Sunday. We're going to be there and do it all. And no spoilers. You'll have to find out if we did that in the next episode. Yeah, that was our Saturday at Grimmfest. And we're going to sign off now because I think that's enough. Again, don't want to force you into 3-hour episodes. We're not quite there with viewership yet. We've got to keep it fresh, keep it clean, keep it...
Well, yeah, keep talking. I mean, last time I fell asleep, so... It's
true. It's very true.
There's
a commonality to all of this. So we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed our part 2 of Grimmfest review. If you're interested in finding out any more or keeping a track of the podcast and things, you can find all of the posts at bombshellsandblueshells.com. You can subscribe and listen to us at the moment, I believe, through Anchor, Spotify and Podbean. We're in the reviewing stages for some other platforms, but those are the ones that has got nailed down so far. And if you would like to ask us anything, talk to us, let us know what you thought of any of these films, you can catch me on Twitter at Blueshells or Facebook and Instagram at Bombshells and Blueshells. How about you?
And my Twitter is at 32bit5s and my Instagram
is the same.
32bit5s.
It is. Anyway, if we've got any of these wrong, just check the show notes because they'll be correct in there. I have been including them because we are bad at this. Like I said, episode 5, maybe we'll get there eventually. But from us, that is good night.
Yeah, 32bit5s, 32bit5s.
But again, thank you for listening. Please do all the lovely things like rate, review, subscribe, all of that. But for us, that is good night.
Good night.